Well, the NFL Top 100 list came out, and looks like 9% of that list is the Philadelphia Eagles, which is kind of crazy. And kind of want to talk about specifically some of the players off that list and just how their careers have been in Philadelphia so far. I kind of want to go through all that. So, yeah, let's get into it.
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Yo, what is going on, guys? What's on a fantastic day? So I do apologize for the other day. I did not upload anything yesterday. Yesterday was just one of those really busy days where I just had no time to do anything. So I do apologize for that. But I am recording this that day, but at night, so you won't get it till the next day, sort of thing. So yeah, so the NFL Top 100 list, it did come out. Like I said, 9% of that list was the Philadelphia Eagles players, and kind of want to go through the list a little bit and kind of what to see from what I expect from some of these players that were listed on this list going into this year. I take these lists with a grain of salt because it's more of a beauty contest. It's more of pick and choose from the NFL players. I take these with a lot of quality, but at the same time, I feel like some of these lists are sometimes going to favoritism on certain players, and but it's nice to see that there's a lot of Eagles on this list, which is good. So I cannot complain. So to go through the whole list right now, you obviously have at number 18, you have Lane Johnson. Obviously hasn't given up a sack since 2020. I mean, has just been such a just been so good on the right side for us for a long time, especially even the last few seasons. Even the last few seasons, Lane Johnson has dealt with, ankle injuries for consecutive seasons. He's dealt with, obviously, the torn abductor that, we really were kind of really a groin injury at the end of the day. And Lane Johnson even said during the playoffs last year that he actually was more happy that he had the torn abductor than he was going to be bad on a bad ankle, because his ankle, your ankle can only hold up for so long when you put pressure on it nonstop, game by game. The torn abductor really didn't phase him. You know what I mean? Even with shutting down Nick Bosa in the playoffs, just what he did, was just absolutely insane. So with Lane Johnson, one of the remaining Eagles, a longtime Eagles on this team, and probably will play for another couple to a few years. Probably say another 2 to 3 years he'll be a Philadelphia Eagle. But that right side has been pretty strong, and obviously we're looking for that right guard right now. With Cam Jurgens, and is tylersteen gonna kind of beat him out of the job? But I know during OTAs, Cam Jurgens was and mostly in that right guard spot, but things do change over time, and we're not in full pads yet, and we haven't hit joint practices yet and all that great stuff. So we'll move on from there. Number 31 was Jalen Hurts. Obviously, Jalen Hurts it should be on this list regardless. He should get a lot of respect from the league and from the players around the league as well. And the big jump that he made from obviously 2021 to obviously 2022 is just insane. MVP candidate. I don't really have to say much about it. We know how much of a jump Hurts made from that 21 season, but not even that. But as Hurts has to get better going into last year, you put weapons around him the past couple seasons. You really built a really good offense around him, making sure the trenches are great, making sure you're bringing in running backs, and you're giving him reliable receivers and a reliable tight end, and it does help. There's no doubt about it. But the skill set of Jalen Hurts between the run and obviously being a really good passer now, and I think is really going to transcend even better going into this season. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think you guys should be too. I think the less problem we're even thinking about going into the season is really Jalen Hurts. So that's pretty good, Now, number 42, we have Jason Kelce. Obviously, I think if the Eagles won a Super Bowl last year, if the Eagles did win the Super Bowl last year, I think Kelce would have been gone. I think he would have retired. But him coming back was a big plus for us. This could be it after this year. Kelce comes back not only because, we didn't win a Super Bowl, but that this offense is still intact, that this offense or this team in general still has an open window for a Super Bowl, which I pretty much believe. You know what I mean? So I was hoping that he was going to come back, but if not, I knew Cam Jurgens was going to take that center spot and obviously would Tylersteen would probably be your starter right now. As of right now, if the roles were kind of switched. But Kelsey's been the anchor to this offensive line for so long. He's the quarterback of the offensive line. I mean, he makes the calls. I think when Howie Roseman and Jeff Stallings and what these guys have done with the offensive line, which we're going to be talking about a lot more offensive linemen in this list, because there is a few guys on here that they need to take a lot of credit, and the coaches got to take a lot of credit too for it. Giving Jalen Hurts protection, and when Kelsey's in there, even when he's hurt, even where there are times where Kelsey would get hurt, he'd be out a play or two, and he'd come back in, and the guy is just a warrior. And I think we know what Jason Kelsey's all about, and his reputation just speaks for itself. His accolades and what he's done for this city in general, on the field and off the field, has been really amazing. So we know what Jason Kelsey is all about. Number 47, A.J. Brown. Now, a career high for him is 88 catches, breaking some records this year, especially the receiving record this year, which breaking Mike Quick's receiving yard record was a huge one. I mean, A.J. Brown was just a complete beast, and we already knew it was going to happen. Just being that number one guy with Jalen Hurts, being, they're good friends, and, A.J. Brown just brings another dimension. Like, we thought Alshon Jeffrey was a big receiver that, did good things for us, but man, nothing compared when it comes to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is just not only can get those 50-50 contested catches, those 50-50 balls, but at the same time, man, the guy can get an open space, and really good. I think of him as a running back at times, because he's so good in open space with the ball in his hands, and he just brings that other feature to his run game, which is fantastic. And A.J. Brown definitely deserves it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, to have a receiver duo like Devonte Smith and A.J. Brown, it's like having two number one receivers, and I think we're pretty lucky right now. I mean, for years we were dying for a receiver like Devonte Smith, and for years we were dying for a bigger receiver like A.J. Brown that was just so dominant. And I'm telling you, Hurts gravitates these players towards him, and Hurts wanted to get this deal done for A.J. Brown. He wanted him, and Howie, I think Howie went after a few good receivers, the year before, and he couldn't get anything done with some of the teams that want to trade some of these guys, some of their number one receivers, or somebody that was going to give up some draft capital for them. But with A.J. Brown, it got done, and we ended up getting him, and we really thought good things were going to happen, and it really did. You know what I mean? Hopefully we could take that next step and try to win a championship here with these guys before their time is, the contract wise between both of these guys is pretty crazy. So we'll see. Jordan Mailata at number 60. There's nothing really. Jordan Mailata, a seventh-round pick, a rugby player, never played American football in his life, and Jeff Stoutland just turned him around. Remember when Jordan Mailata was on injury reports all the time in the off seasons for the past few years? That's because the Eagles didn't want to put him on practice squad, because they know that he would have been picked off by somebody. A team would have went after him and got him off our practice squad and pried him right off our roster. So Jordan Mailata is a Pro Bowler within itself at left tackle. Is going to be a force to be reckoned with for years. Was he like 6'8", 360? I don't even know what it is, but I didn't expect this in the beginning, but there was a big learning curve here, was learning how to play football, really. And he did this program where he actually a bunch of European players went into a program that want to play into the NFL. He went into this program to learn how to play football, or to learn how to be an offensive lineman for what position that he's going in the draft for. The Eagles took a chance, and the left side hasn't been stronger really since Jason Peters has been here, in his prime, obviously. And to have a left tackle like that, and has been very consistent in not only, Jordan Mailata, but we'll talk about another player that plays next to him later in this list as well. The left side hasn't been stronger, man. Jeff Stoutland, I do not underestimate Jeff Stoutland when he makes, picks in the offensive line in this draft, or whether he looks at certain guys that he brings in. Like, I think he makes the best decisions. We are so lucky to have it, because really a great player comes from a great coach. And I think Jeff Stoutland is one of the number one offensive line coach in the league. I mean, just the reputation of what he's done with certain players, and it's just been kind of crazy. So very happy with that. Now, number 64, we have Hassan Reddick. Now, Reddick, obviously 16.5 sacks for the year. We just did a video on him a couple days ago. 19.5 if you involve the playoffs. I mean, it's nice to have a guy on the edge that he's getting a lot of attention, that quarterbacks really have to watch out for him. Offensive lines need to make sure that they take care of him, because Hassan Reddick is a hunter. He's a cerebral hunter on the edge. Now, obviously, when you have, Brandon Graham still here, when you have, not Nakobe Dean. We have Nolan Smith here. Hassan Reddick was the guy that Nolan Smith was compared to, and you're playing on the same team as him. So it's really nice to have a guy like this, a guy that came to Philadelphia, was the pick before Derek Barnett in the 2017 NFL draft. Went to Temple, so he always wanted to play in Philadelphia. Came to Philadelphia last year, or that last offseason, I'm saying, in literally, took a pay cut. I mean, could have got paid so much more money. I mean, 3 double-digit sack seasons. I mean, even after his 12 and a half season in 2020 with the Cardinals, a lot of people were saying around the league, like, maybe he's just had one good fluke year. But for a guy that has double-digit sack seasons in 3 seasons with 3 different teams, I think he's the third or fourth player to do that in history. Not a lot of players can do that, especially with new team. I mean, that means he works on his craft. That means, he says he's in a lot of shape now, and even more good shape now, and ready for another season. I feel like, even if Gannon didn't put him in so much coverage beginning of the season last year, I think he would have had 28 to 30 sacks. Honestly, I think he would have had like at least another 6 to 10 sacks. It's it's just kind of crazy, man. So it's nice to have somebody like that on the edge, and definitely deserves a spot here. There's no doubt about it for Hassan Reddick. Next is number 69 is Devonte Smith. Devonte Smith is, even how they used Devonte, when Devonte Smith was drafted, that was really the big start of what this team was going to turn into. And a lot of people were down on Devonte Smith because of his size, Heisman Trophy winner. You have a Heisman Trophy winner on your team. This guy just wants to win. This guy has the most blessed, most perfect work ethic I've ever seen. And, even when they didn't really use Devonte Smith well in the 21 season, and they were really not using him like a number one. They were using him like a backup receiver. I didn't like how they were using him, and I don't know why they weren't using him the right way. Really going to 22, obviously, there was a lot of speculation of, they need to pair him up with somebody. Devonte Smith obviously had a 1,000-yard season with A.J. Brown this past year, and Devonte Smith, I think, is going to have more yards than A.J. Brown. I think he'll have less catches, more yards. I think Devonte Smith is just starting to really become probably one of the best receivers in the league. He should be respected for that. At least the NFL players are respecting that as of right now. I mean, I don't care what they think. I know he's a beast. I think he could be he's a top 5 receiver regardless. I feel like Devonte Smith is going to have the best season of his life this year in 2023. I think as a player, he's just amazing. I think his routes, I think what the Eagles did even last year, really when Dallas Goedert went down, I think when they started using double time sets with Jack Stoll and Grant Calcaterra, and they really started to attack with Devonte Smith a lot more. He's got that, that burner ability. He's got that sideline catchability. He's very good at it. There was a couple times where a couple catches he probably caught this year that should have been called back. But he played great. He's got great hands. He's got great tracking of the football. He's got great speed. He can maintain his speed while catching the ball. He's got great concentration. Like Devonte Smith, they start to use him, vertically. They start to attack him with A.J. Brown, because really beginning of the 22 season, they were just like using him on out routes and slants. They weren't really doing too much with him, and probably could have had an even better season this year. So I think going into 23, I think Brian Johnson's going to do a really good job with him. I think they're going to make him do a lot this year. I think they're going to put more on his plate this year. I know you would say, more on his plate because he had a 1,000-yard season last year, but he could have played a lot better last year and gave him more opportunity last year. It's not because of him. It's because of the way they were designing these play calls with Shane Steichen last year. So I think Devonte Smith will be will have the most yards on this team going into 23. And I think we're going to, I think we're gonna. We obviously have one of the best receivers in the league. We know that, and we're gonna get something even better once the season starts. And he is going to be a beast. Devonte Smith is just a stud. Okay, and I will never back down from that. And that's one of the best things about him. Like I said, with Devonte Smith and AJ Brown, it's very rare you have two receivers like that are very dominant. Okay, and Jalen Hurts has played with both of these guys, or at least has been associated with both of these guys. Jalen Hurts played with Devonte Smith at Alabama. Jalen Hurts' best friends actually tried recruiting AJ Brown to Alabama. I think it was Alabama at the time. Obviously, AJ Brown played for a different school. So a best friend, best friends working on the off seasons together. So there's so much chemistry with this group. Even with some of these players that have mentioned, even Anthony, even Terrell Edmonds talked about how Jalen Hurts and Devonte Smith and AJ Brown and how he trusts his receivers 100%. That there's so much trust on the field between all three of those guys, and you could definitely tell. I mean, last year really told you how much trust there was. You know what I mean? So they know how to get the job done. They know how to work and get it done. So was very happy. Really have been happy with Devonte Smith's progress, and I never doubted that he would play bad or something like that. Like I always thought Devonte Smith was a beast in this league, and he's just going to get better. So it was good for Devonte Smith. Now, Landyn Dickerson, obviously we talked offensive lineman like crazy at 77, Landyn Dickerson. So obviously Landyn Dickerson was drafted, the second year as a Philadelphia Eagle, and he's a Pro Bowler already. Now, if I remember, it was 21, and we started, I remember Brandon Brooks got hurt in that the opener against San Francisco. He played right guard. He didn't play well. I think he ended up getting banged up that game. We lost that game. And then he switched over to that left side. And then, he was supposed to be the replacement for Jason Kelce. Now he had like a couple ankle injuries, a couple knee injuries, coming off a torn ACL really when we drafted him in the second round, and he was supposed to be a late first round pick. So I was very skeptical of drafting him, and if he stays healthy, the guy's going to be a starter in this league. And look what Landyn Dickerson's done in the run game. He's fantastic. Pass protection, he's one of the best in pass protection, and he gets the nod for a Pro Bowl last year. You know what I mean? So he definitely deserved it. There's no doubt. So now you draft Cam Jurgens. He's supposed to be our next center, and you know what I mean? So it's like Dickerson was supposed to be pretty much the Kelce replacement, and now they put him at left guard next to Mulata, and all said was done after that. I mean, that's it. That's the story of Landyn Dickerson so far. And the Eagles are getting so young at offensive line, and the Eagles have done such a good job. Howie Roseman's done such a great job in these trenches. I can't explain it even more what he's done there. So Dickerson's got a huge ceiling ahead of him with the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm very excited for it. Now, Darius Slay is at 96 right now, and as the last on the list, big play Slay. There's a lot of things, there's fans that like Slay, there's fans that don't like him. When it comes to how he was used last year, I put a lot of that into Jonathan Gannon and, at this defensive coordinator, being playing how he was playing all year, very passive, how he played these corners off the line way too much. I mean, when you have two corners like you do, and Bradberry and Slay, like, you gotta let them get physical a little bit. And I think that's where they play it. I mean, really, I think what really messed me up, I think it was week 8, I forgot the Washington game. And I remember like Terry McLaurin is lined up, Slay's lined up on Terry McLaurin. McLaurin runs at 100% on a route, and Slay is about 8 to 9 yards back, and he's supposed to react to a route from a really good player. You know what I mean? And how are you supposed to match up like that if you're not moving, if you're sitting there waiting to react on a break of a route? How are you supposed to capitalize on that? So there were plays where Slay looked like he was lost. I felt like that Vikings game was his best game. I felt like after that game, they just kept on. They never. When you mirror Slay on the number one guy, I feel like they play better. When you give Slay something to do for the whole game, I feel like it gives him more motivation to really. I'm not saying that he gives up on plays, but there were times where he looked lazy. There was times where he either wasn't. I think it was part coaching, it was part Slay. They didn't mirror him on number one receivers during the year. They really didn't at times until maybe like the last second in the fourth quarter, or maybe when they finally realized they had to do that. I don't know, because Gannon's just so stupid at this point. You know what I mean? So I understand there's probably people that think Slay's washed. I don't think he is. I think he's still one of the best corners in the league. There's no doubt about it. But you know what I mean? I feel like if Sean Desai uses these corners the right way, it's going to make everybody's job. You get a pass rush, it helps the corners. The corners play well, it helps the pass rush. The corners play well, it helps the safeties out. You know what I mean? So it's all hand in hand with your defense. And I don't hate Slay or anything. I feel like they kept him on one side of the field. They didn't mirror him too much. Like, I thought that Vikings game was like perfect. It's just the way they used him in that game. And then I felt like they kind of fell off after that a little bit. The corners weren't used right. Too many easy catches, especially when you too many short possessions for big yards. When you leave that much space, when you're not playing linebackers in the box. I mean, there's a whole bunch you can go over with Gannon and how he played this defense. And obviously you have to put some blame on the player, but got to put blame on the coaching as well. And Slay definitely deserves a spot. There's no doubt about it. So that was your top 9. And 9% of this list was all Philadelphia Eagles in the NFL top 100. There should be a lot more players on here. Okay. Let's just say that, but that's where we're going with that. Now I saw that there were some other things too. Of the top 10 coverage corners, the coverage players of last season, and James Bradberry was number 1 on the list, and that's great. I mean, really, when we signed Bradberry, I didn't expect him to play that good. Now, this is a guy that gave up over 800 yards with the Giants. I was a little skeptical. I was a little nervous because he gave up over 800 yards. He hasn't been a Pro Bowler since 2020. Like, he didn't really play well with the Giants. But was it more him, or was it more the Giants defense? Was it more the Giants coaching? Was it, he gave up a lot of yards. But I got to say, taking him from being a number 1, putting him as a number 2, not putting too much pressure on him, and being a number 2, being with Slay, and it was great. You know what I mean? I thought, obviously because of you have so many good players on offense, and Bradberry can go up against so many good receivers that we have. Iron sharpens iron at practice. You know what I mean? So he was making plays at OTAs, he was making plays at joint practice and stuff like that. So it was really nice to see that, and I'm actually really proud of Bradberry kind of turning himself around and being with a good team. And I think with a good group of guys is really, really, he kind of wanted a home. Having a good year and not, winning the Super Bowl last year, Bradberry had a lot to think about. Now, from what we heard after he signed his deal with the Eagles, he always wanted to come back. He wanted to come back that badly. And so bad he came back really after talking to Sean Desai and how he was going to use him. And then coming back to the Eagles in general, that's what he wanted. He turned down $15 million a year, $16 million a year contracts to come back to the Eagles for what? $12, $13 million a year. So you have Bradberry for another 3 years. And I think he's very happy too, because he really hasn't had a home. You know what I mean? Went to Carolina, went to the Giants, you know what I mean? So, he really didn't have a consistent home, and he really wanted to be with guys consistently and not move from team to team to team. And I think the last thing he wanted to do is go to a brand new team, or go to a team that wasn't good, or not just wasn't good, but go to a brand new group of guys and want to play with. There's some new faces to this defense, but when you talk about the corner room in general, it's the same. I mean, you really didn't lose much in the cornerback position. What'd you lose? Probably nothing. You're still with Devonte Max. You're still with Big Play Slay. You have Zach McPherson, Mario Goodrich, Josh Jobe, the guys that were still here. Obviously, some new guys, and Eli Ricks, and some new guys in Eli Ricks and some of the other guys. So, I mean, there's Keely Ringo is in the building now. So that's some new faces at cornerback, but really the same group at corner. So I think he felt really comfortable coming back, and some of the other guys that were on the team defensively. So turned down a lot of money. I didn't think Bradberry was going to play that well. Now, Slay and Bradberry, when it comes to obviously yards allowed, they were top 5 last year. I mean, they played just fantastic. It just sucks that it was just, we couldn't get anything out of that last game in the Super Bowl, and could have made it worth it even more. But I'm glad Bradberry is here up. I think Bradberry was the most surprised signing to this team. And I think this only happened because they couldn't sign Chauncey. I felt like if they signed Chauncey, Bradberry wouldn't have been here. And I actually like this outcome a lot better, because then the Eagles would have had to draft a cornerback really high, and I don't think the Eagles wanted to do that. You know what I mean? So maybe Chauncey going to the Lions was really a blessing in disguise, in my opinion, because I think we started to see Chauncey's attitude. We started to see a little bit of stuff that was going on, even though I agree on both sides, contracts and what was going on, the backloaded contract that he received. So it opened a spot for Bradberry to come back, because the Eagles weren't waiting days for Chauncey to make his decision whether he was coming back. You know what I mean? So there was a lot going on there. So Bradberry has been, it's I gotta say, man, I'm actually quite surprised he had the year that he had. I'm surprised over that, and you know, I'm glad that the Eagles have signed him, you know, to a new home now for the next 3 years. So I'm very happy about that with him coming back. So I know this was a long video. I do apologize for that. I want to reminisce on, obviously, the players that were in the NFL Top 100. And there's more players on the Eagles that really deserve it. I think Brandon Graham deserves to be on it. There's a lot more that really deserves to be on it. But, you know, they're not going to. Obviously, this is up to the NFL players voting, or this is, like I said, I don't take these NFL top 100s too much. Like, I know what players are good on my team. I know I know where they rank. I know how much they're worth, how much their value is to an NFL team. And I'm not even being biased about it. You know, trust me, if there's a player that's not great, doesn't deserve to be on a list, I'll say, hey, he doesn't deserve to be here, or I'll be shocked. You know what I mean? That he's on a list or whatnot. So. But yeah, let me know if you guys agree. Who else would be in that NFL Top 100? And what do you guys think of James Bradberry? I know we don't really talk about him as much because he's a starter and he's played well, and we're really talking about guys that really need to make this team, or guys that could, or more for competition. Cornerback, still there's going to be competition for depth purposes, so very excited for that. Let me know what you guys think about James Bradberry in general, just the season he had last year, and how do you feel about the extension? How do you feel about him being here for another 3 years? And were you kind of shocked of how good he played as a number 2, not really as a number 1 anymore? So you guys let me know. What do you guys think? I know it was a long video, but I do appreciate everybody that has lasted this long. And if you guys have lasted this long, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like the video as well. We'll have more Eagles content every day. Like I said, I do apologize for yesterday. I didn't put out anything. I was so tired. I had so much stuff to do yesterday. It was just one of those days yesterday. So I do apologize, and hope you guys, you know, give me a break on that, because sometimes you just have those days, and you know, it's work, it's this, it's that, it's chores, I have to run the back. It's just one of those times. So I do appreciate it so much. But other than that, guys, I will see you guys on the next one. Chicks, what up? Follow us. Peace out, guys. Peace.